Alright guys, what's up? Coming to you with another Inquisition multiplayer tutorial. This is the Kunari mage Saarebas. And let's look at her abilities and the reasons behind those abilities. So first things first. The Saarebas does not use any mana, or does she have any cooldowns. Instead she uses 3 different stances. The opening stance, the flow stance and the powerful finishing stance. Each spell deals different, has different effects depending on the stance you cast them from. So, for instance, let's look at the Azara's Leap. So from the opening stance, which is your default stance, the stance that you start on, you deal cold damage to enemies you pass through. So this is basically your fate step that you can use to charge towards enemies or get out of trouble. And this deals 300% weapon damage to enemies that you pass through. And this is only from the opening stance, so you have to remember that. And once you cast a spell from the opening stance, you automatically move to flow stance. And if you use Azara's Leap again, instead of charging, you leap back to safety. You basically just launch backwards and deal electricity damage for 300% weapon damage instead of cold damage. And once you do a spell in the flow stance, you enter the finishing stance, which will allow you to do basically a finishing move. And in Azara's Leap's case, the finishing move is a leap attack that deals fire damage to enemies when you jump and when you land. So you can actually deal damage twice here. So that's great. There's only one downside with the finishing moves, is that the finishing move casting time is slow. So you wanna make sure that well, it doesn't really matter because you wanna cast the finishing move either way. Because, well, yeah, you wanna cast the finishing move either way, but there are some instances that you might wanna cancel your finishing move. And you can use Azara's Leap to do that, because Azara's Leap is the only finishing move that is actually instant. It does not require a casting animation. So you can use it to cancel other finishing moves. If you accidentally start doing a finishing move and you realize, oh shit, I can't do any damage with this finishing move, you can use Azara's Leap instead to cancel it. But you have to you still have to remember that you revert to opening stance, but you still revert to opening stance anyway if you successfully cast any finishing move. So you have to bear that in mind. I've also picked up Glyphs of Akun for defensive purposes, because this glyph will give me 25% damage resistance along with other effects like chill when cast from the opening stance. And it's great because the glyph does not require to be recast at all. It basically stays with you forever. And that's gonna be pretty helpful. And of course, casting it from other stances gives you different effects. So basically, casting Glyphs of Akun 3 times in a row gives you the Fire Glyph, which will increase your damage for 25%. So bear that in mind. But since I will be mostly playing on the higher difficulties, like Perilous, like Nightmare, and so on, I wanna use the damage resistance. And combined with strength, endurance, you take less damage while you're casting spells, and since you're pretty much all the time casting spells, damage reduction is great. So yeah, you can keep that shit up as much as possible. Now, our main damage ability is gonna be Atlock Burst. As you can see right here, from the opening stance, Atlock Burst deals 800% weapon damage within 8 meters from you. That's pretty amazing. So that's gonna be your main damage. And the flow effect is also freaking amazing, because instead of doing damage, you pull enemies to you within 8 meters. So you can actually pull enemies to you to clump them up together make them even more vulnerable to further AoE from you and from your allies. And the finishing move is basically a cold damage attack that will freeze enemies within the 8 meters. So you can already imagine the synergy with the Atlock burst on its own, because you can charge in with using the leap from the opening stance. You can charge in to middle of enemies, and then you can use the flow stance burst to pull enemies to you, and then you can use the finishing blow to freeze them all up. And then you can continue that combo by using the opening attack of the burst to deal 800% weapon damage to any survivors. And they will most likely die. So that's gonna be pretty awesome right there. And as my final ability, I will be using Gatlock Blast. And I'm using this ability for one purpose only, and that's for the flow stance effect. You fire 2 lightning charge stones. The first paralyzes the target and the second discharges it if it hits the primary target. And these stones, and since you're firing 2 stones, they will deal 400% weapon damage each, for a total of 800% weapon damage to a single target. And since also it paralyzes and discharges, you will also deal the discharge explosion damage as an AoE. So imagine this. I see let's say a pack of 5 enemies. I charge in with the leap to the center, maybe trying to hit as many enemies as I can with the leap to deal that initial damage. Then I use the flow stance burst to pull them together, and then I use the finisher to freeze them, and then I follow up with the opening burst, and if they somehow still are alive, I can use the Gatlock Blast flow effect to deal that discharge AoE damage. And quite frankly, the enemy should be dead by that point, but if for some reason they still aren't dead, you can either freeze them again, or you can use the leap finisher to deal 300% fire damage when you jump, and another 300% when you land. And then if they are still alive, you can continue by using the Atlock burst opener and repeat the sequence as much as you like. Now let's look at the passives. So we picked Power of the Dead. This will give us 20% damage bonus every time an enemy dies. Nice. And then there's from Power Mastery. And every time you kill an enemy, they explode for 400% weapon damage. Awesome. And then there's in Ignorance Weakness. You are immune to being interrupted while casting spells in the finishing stance. So like I talked about earlier, finishing stance casting animations are slow except for the leap. Ignore the leap. The Atlock burst casting animation for the freeze is actually very slow. So you wanna make sure that enemies won't be able to stagger you or interrupt you in any way when you're casting those finishing moves. So this is very important. And then there's Hasten Demise. The more wounded the enemy is, the more damage you deal to it. So that's gonna help you deal with any enemies that survive your initial burst. So yeah, we already talked about this. Let's look at the alternatives. So instead of Gatlock Blast, you can pick this one, Atashi's Breath. Now, similar to Gatlock Blast, Atashi's Breath will also paralyze any enemies caught in the breath for 3 seconds, but it won't deal any damage, unfortunately, and it also won't detonate itself, unlike the Gatlock Blast. Gatlock Blast will detonate itself, discharging it, but with the Atashi's Breath you actually have to have someone else to detonate the paralyze effect. But the chilling effect is quite good. From the opening stance you can freeze enemies. That is pretty helpful. And the finishing move can be pretty good as well, if you actually if you see an opportunity to use it. So that can be one alternative for Gatlock Blast, basically. And then there's, well, I guess there is Vacuum Barrage, but I personally don't use it because this is great against single target. Well, this is not great, this is awesome. This is freaking awesome against single targets. But this build is gonna be focused mostly on AoE damage. So I personally won't be using Vacuum Barrage. And also it doesn't give me any utility, any crowd control, unlike the Breath and the Gatlock Blast. Then there's the Explosion. Now this is pretty great. As you see, the opening effect deals electricity damage to enemies around my target and enemies near the target. So that's very good. And the flow effect deals 400% weapon damage to a single target and panics enemies around it. But I personally don't use it because I don't really need it. And the Atlock Burst Opener is better for straight up AoE damage, quite frankly. So yeah. And of course this ability also lacks utility, except the panic effect from the flow stance. But if the flow stance would deal AoE damage as well, I would probably use it, but since it doesn't deal, I won't personally use it. I wanna maximize my AoE damage as much as possible. You might argue that maybe I should probably use the explosion instead of Cliffs of Akun, but I don't really need the explosion in my rotation at all. Like I explained my rotation earlier, there's really no room. There's no room to use the explosion at any point, basically. So yeah, this is garbage. This ability is garbage even with the upgrade. And this ability is garbage as well because it's single target and yeah, no really use there. So yeah, that's the Saarebas. Let's look at the equipment. So you wanna have a good weapon, good armor. I use the Constitution Amulet for extra HP and melee damage reduction. I use the melee defense belt for melee damage reduction because when you use the flow stance burst, you pull enemies towards you. Maybe one or two enemies might actually get one hit on you before you freeze them with the finishing move of the burst. So you wanna make sure you mitigate that damage as much as possible. And then I'm using 2 life on heal on kill rings. So yeah, that's gonna help me sustain my HP. So that's the Saarebas. Let's see what she can actually do in game, so be right back. Alright guys, here we go with the Saarebas and let's see what she is made of. And looks like we get to kill a frost dragon. I should have one dragon skull with me, so we can actually kill the dragon. So first things first, when you're in the game you activate Clip of Akun. This will give you, with the frost glyph you can get 25% damage reduction, and that's gonna be helpful here. Now as the rotation and the sequence I use, I'm gonna probably charge in like this, follow up with the blast and then use leap. Like this. That's basically my combo here. And I will do it pretty much all the time against 1 or 2 enemies. But if you are fighting against multiple enemies, you wanna run instead of using the charge, you might actually wanna run in and use Gatlock Blast as your opener like this. The Gatlock Blast deals 800% weapon damage as fire to enemies all around you. I'm actually gonna freeze these guys. And of course, the more enemies there are, if there's even more enemies, maybe let's say 4 or 3 enemies, I will probably be using the using Gatlock I mean Atlock burst finisher to freeze my enemies. Because that's actually pretty good as well. Just let's leap. You can also use the leap if you accidentally do a wrong finisher. You can use the leap to interrupt it, so you don't waste any of that. Alright, now I can get a nice pull. So let's see what happens if I freeze these guys. Nice. And I usually follow up with the burst again as an opening move, and then use Gatlock blast basically. That's basically what I do. Let's get rid of you. I'm gonna wait for my opener to reset so I can actually get in here. Kill these guys. Boom. They should be dead. You are dead too. I'm gonna leap on you. You will die. Nice, let's open some doors. So what door was that? It's a mage door, so I'm gonna go open that one. Nice. Climb back up. So yeah, and the way to track your stance is that if you look at the mana bar right here below the health bar, it's empty. So that means that I have the opening stance on. But as you see, I use an ability here. It goes to half, which means that I am at the flow stance now. And if I would have casted another ability, it would have went all the way to full, and that would indicate that I was at the finishing stance. And once you doesn't do the finishing move, the thing resets. So yeah, but I personally don't look at the mana bar that much. I instinctively know at which stance I am. Just by doing the rotation, I can drag that thing down. Let's charge in here. Let's pull these guys. I wanna freeze the rage demon because it's quite important that we can crowd control him. He won't be able to do his shenanigans. Let's get in here. Let's freeze you. And of course, clumping up my enemies with the pull as well is gonna make job for our Qataris easier, so they can actually hit their charges more effectively. They can do their mighty blows more effectively if they have it, and you know they can do pretty much everything more effectively. No, don't do that. Okay, I need to find some enemies somewhere. There's plenty, but they're gonna wanna stick close to my. Ooh, no. God damn it. Fucking hell. Okay, now's my chance to actually kill that guy. Let's throw this in there. Freeze again. Nice. Where is the... Oh, there's that motherfucker. Rocco is dead. I need to get him up. Okay. Hopefully my other Qatari friend can hang on. I don't like... demons are actually pretty annoying opponents for the Saarebas because you cannot actually pull raids with the burst. So that's actually quite annoying. Not just quite annoying, it's actually very annoying. Because you're a lot depends on your pull. Let's get rid of this guy. And of course you run away. Fucking die. Yes, he's dead. Let's get rid of you. Nice. Alright, I can get a nice freeze here. Pull these guys. Sometimes I will use the leap as a... well, most of the time I will use the leap as a finisher. Especially against single targets. But the optimal way is to use the burst finisher to freeze the enemies. That's basically the safest route, because the leap does not do enough damage to actually properly kill the targets. The main damage comes from, you know, the main damage comes from the opener burst and come on, and the freeze shatter basically. The freeze itself doesn't do that much damage. It does 400% weapon damage, but thanks to the upgrade that I have, the freeze will also shatter automatically without anyone having to detonate it, and the detonation will deal quite a bit of damage. So it makes up for the lack of freeze damage from the finisher on its own. Alright, let's charge you. Let's paralyze you. Let's leap and open. Right, let's... I'm gonna stun you. Don't need that guy doing his shitty stuff. Ideal enemies for you would be Templars probably, because there's not a single enemy on the Templars that you cannot pull with a burst towards you, except Templar Knights. But there aren't a lot of Templar Knights, so that actually it will become a problem. Unlike, you know, unlike the raids, because there's gonna be a shit ton of raids everywhere, and the fact that you cannot pull them is gonna hurt you quite a bit. Alright, I need to get rid of this guy. I actually used the Gatlock Blast finisher there because it deals fire damage, so that's gonna help me actually take care of the these piece of shits. Despair demons, yeah, that's what they are. It's gonna help me deal with the despair demons. What the? Why did I do that? Now I'm in a no man's land, that's for sure. Where's the despair demon? I wanna kill him. Well, he's firing. Paralyze. I wanna get rid of this guy. It's very important to me. Nice. Now that the Despair demons are out of the way, I can probably focus on doing other things. And the demons also have very annoying enemies, like the Despair demon and, you know, the raids. Even though the raids are pretty weak, but like I've said before, you can't pull them. And Despair demons are annoying because they move around, and you cannot actually freeze them, unlike other enemies. The shades are great because they don't have any gimmicks. They don't have any stupid gimmicks like, you know, like the Desper demons. They don't run away. They run away and stuff. All they do is basically attack you in melee. And I like that. And they come to you, so you don't actually have to pull them all the time. So that's helpful. So basically melee enemies are great. There's an enemy somewhere. Should we kill it? Can use the Catlock Blast because it deals fire damage and Revenants are weak to fire damage. Catlock Blast Finisher. Even Catlock Blast Finisher, it deals nice damage, but the casting animation is too slow. So that's why I don't personally use it. And of course it's a single target attack. And this build mostly focuses on, well, pretty much focuses on, you know, focuses on AoE damage. So we wanna make sure that we actually use the finishers to abilities that actually deal AoE damage, like the burst, like the leap, and all that stuff. Looks like we have finally some some melee mobs that I can use the freeze on. That's great. And if we would go into a choke point, it would be even better. Because that way I would be able to, you know, I would be able to, why is the big guy immune to freezing? We should open that thing. I mean, recover the supplies. Okay, that guy is already doing that. So I might as well protect him. Freeze! And of course the demons have a lot of enemies that are immune to freezing as well, like the fear demons. So, you know, you have to remember that as well. Boom. I'm actually gonna stand right here. Gonna keep freezing and whatnot. Nice. No, don't use that. I wanna leave. Now I'm at the... This is a nice spot for me because I can actually spam burst here all the time. I can just continually spam burst. And we will be able to crowd control pretty much everything that comes our way. That's gonna be nice for us. Yep, keep pulling. The Virtuoso will also make sure that we have the barrier on all the time. The barrier that we need. Okay, let's try to find a better spot now. Here. Nice. As you can see, the freeze actually has quite a bit of range, so you don't actually have to be next to the guy to freeze them. So you can actually keep that in mind as well. Boom. Now I'm basically just spamming one button here. actually could switch position quite a bit. They're still coming. Nice. It's great because there's no more raid spawning, so we don't have to worry about those kinds of enemies. So we're gonna use the Catlock Blast finisher to deal with that guy up there. Nice. Against Templars you can do what I did right there. Pretty much all the time, since Templars have a lot of enemies that are vulnerable to crowd controls like the pull. I'm gonna use the Catlock Blast finisher because it deals fire damage. And Arcane Horrors, like the Revenants, are weak to fire damage. So that's good to know. Right, I'm gonna go open that because I want the golds. The golds. Alright, now we can take down the dragon. So because it's a frost dragon, it's gonna be weak to fire damage. So I will be pretty much using the Catlock Blast finisher here and the Atlock Burst opener here to deal damage to that dragon. To deal as much damage to the dragon, basically. So let's wait for it to land so I can target it. Okay, there we go, and let's start with the opener here. Catlock Blast. Ooh. Ooh. I don't have any flow stand spell that actually is fire. So I have to use the Shock Blast. Nice. Watch where I stand. And I can keep shooting the dragon since I manually targeted it. And if you have if you actually have the barrage ability that you can basically use instead of the Catlock Blast. Okay, now I'm gonna switch because I have to deal with the dragons. These guys will probably be immune. No. Okay, they weren't immune to freezing. Nice. So yeah, you can use the barrage to basically kill the dragon even when you're out of range, because the barrage will track your enemies. So it's good to know that. And the barrage deals shit ton of damage too, especially if you have upgraded it. I could have basically killed the dragon right here with the barrage. I mean, while she's on the air. I could actually kill the dragon on my own. Boom, 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 and there she goes again. Just keep firing. Okay, let's deal with these dragons. Nice. And of course these dragonlings are also weak to, are weak to fire damage, I think. So that's great for us. Nice. Now we have to wait for the dragon to land again.
This Inquisition must be desperate, recruiting the way they do. Just look at it.
The barrage is all well and good, but the barrage's use is mostly on only single target DPS. It doesn't have any utility, unlike the Catlock Blast that can actually paralyze foes. And I like the, and I like the utility that you can get from Gutlock Blast. Now's our chance to really do some pulling again. Nice. They're dead. Boom. Once the dragon lands, it should be the final phase, so we can actually kill it. Gonna go help this guy over here. Well, I can't pull the dragon, so I don't know what I'm doing, but... No... Might at least do something. Boom. Kill that guy. Kill that guy. Right, land. Land, you piece of trash. Thank you. Let's use the opener. Gutlock Blast. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Ah. Let's freeze these guys. Help our body out. Nice. I'm gonna freeze you. Do like this. It's great that they're vulnerable to freezing because quite frankly it's great because I can get the shatter damage as well as keep them still. Now we should be able to kill the dragon. Land! Can I target him from here? Yeah, I can. Alright. Should be dead. There it goes. Yep. So that's the Saarebas. Saarebas, at least the way I play him. Her. Focusing on AoE damage and crowd control. That's what she does. It's unfortunate that we were facing demons because demons have a lot of enemies that can't be pulled. So that's unfortunate, but against Templars and the Venatori this build is actually quite effective. Let's see what I got. Nothing of interest, unfortunately. Boom. So I did get quite a bit of team combos as well. I got a nice score as well. So yeah, Saarebas, pretty decent. Pretty powerful with the crowd control. Perhaps the best crowd control in the game, I think. With the Saarebas. So yeah, that's the Saarebas. See you next time once a new class pops up.